Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wills, Women, and Wealth. I am your host, Maryland attorney Elsa W. Smith. I'm also the owner of the law offices of Elsa W. Smith. Our mission on this podcast is to lead you holistically from overwhelmed to empowered through estate planning. This is a podcast for women who value their health, their wealth, and the legacies that they are creating. And each episode is going to bring you interviews in the areas of finance, law, mental, physical health, and so much more. You're also going to hear educational episodes that answer some of your questions on wills and estate planning topics. This is a community, so I'm calling on you to engage. Let's start growing together. Do you have a question or a topic that you'd like me to address on the show? Please contact us via social media or leave a comment under this video. Now, if you're catching this on the replay, we welcome you to leave a comment. Let us know if you like the show and please share it. This and all future episodes are going to be available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Now, you all know me, and I seek to bring you thought leaders and change makers on this show. Today's guest is no exception to that rule. My guest today is Martha Underwood. She is the founder of PRISMM, and we're both going to learn so much more about this dynamic, new, fresh, and innovative company that she's founded. Before I bring her on, though, I do want to tell you a bit about Martha. So from IBM in Florida to Silicon Valley and now Birmingham, Alabama, Martha has built a storied career in the software technology industry. Her accomplishments include building enterprise solutions for insurance carriers, working on the earliest iterations of healthcare patient portals, and positioning startups for acquisition by designing business models and optimizing product offerings. Martha left corporate to launch PRISMM, a company dedicated to leveraging technology to ensure wealth transfer at the end of life. Her focus is on taking a creative and innovative approach to handling documents and assets using best-in-class digital practices. With more than 25 years of experience, Martha is putting her enthusiastic passion for technology to work, developing products and services to help people manage the often daunting affairs and tedious administrative tasks that require attention when a loved one transitions in life. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Martha Underwood. Martha, wonderful. It's so lovely to have you on the show.
It's so great to be here, Elsa. Thank you for having me as a guest to share, my journey.
I really can't wait to share that journey and so much more with the viewers and listeners. So tell us about your background and, just where you're from, because I want people to know you in addition to the amazing company that you founded. So please.
Sure. So originally I'm from Miami, was raised in Miami, but was born in the Bahamas. My parents are from Haiti. So I have 3 languages in my head all the time. So that's all interesting. Grew up there, went to Miami Central High School, which they become a powerhouse in football now, and that's all we hear. But then went to college at the University of South Florida, where I got a degree in English and in technical writing. And that led me kept me on my path of technology, because I started in technology when I was in the 8th grade, just fell in love with it, learning basic and learning how to count in binary. Then went to Central that had a computer magnet high school or program, and continued my love for technology there and learned how to program. And then when I went to USF, I wanted to use my creative side. So I went to English, but I said I did not want to leave. I didn't want to leave the technical side. So I said, well, how can I marry the two? Writing, technical writing, put me in the College of Engineering where I was still around coding. And so I got my degree and then was recruited with IBM straight out of college and worked with them as an EDI analyst, which people are like, oh, whenever I say that, they're like, what is that? I'm like, you don't want to know. It's old supply chain, mainframe type technology. Um, and then met my husband, and he brought me to Birmingham, Alabama from Tampa, Florida. And it was a little shock, but love it here. We raised our two boys here. And that's where I rolled into the startup world. Started working for some startups, helping them on the health informatics side. Did that for about 5 years, and then Silicon Valley came calling. A company out of Silicon Valley had just acquired a company here in Birmingham and wanted someone to come help bridge the gap. And I came in and did that for some time. Then from there was again recruited to the bank, was recruited to a global bank and was head of their retail software engineering. And 2 years ago, they were purchased by another large US bank. And that was I think that was my wake up call. Or, not, I don't even want to say wake up call. It was the chance for me to go and follow my passion. So just working in corporate America and working in tech, I was a little burnt out anyway. So it was time for me to leave and do something on my own because I was always an entrepreneur in corporate America.
Right.
So I was just like, okay, it's time for me to go. And so now I'm on this other journey.
I love it. I love it. And when you and I, well, we met through a mutual acquaintance, but when we connected, we discovered so many things. And one of the things, and our stories, have so much synergy. There's so many parallels there. But one of the things that I love and I love doing on this show is giving a platform to Black women, to women of color. And you and I share that we are both of Afro-Caribbean descent. I share with you that I am of Afro-Cuban descent, and you've just shared your roots. So, we hit it off. There was no question.
Right.
Our upbringing is the same
Yeah.
hard work ethic, which explains a lot about your drive and your passion to succeed. Now, I always like to, keep it real on these
Let's
shows,
do
and
it.
I want you to share. I would like you to share. What challenges did you face navigating the tech industry as a woman of color? Because you and I both know that it's, predominantly, white industry, as is mine in estate planning. But I'd be curious to know, what some of your challenges were.
So I'd say one of the main challenges is always having to justify being in the room or being in the position, and that I'm not there to just check a box. Um, I always had to fight for that promotion, right? When I saw some of my white counterparts just get walked into it and not being told the rules of the game, to where I saw, executives take some of my white coworkers, men, and it's like, let me take you under my wing. Let me take you to this happy hour. Let me tell you what just happened in that meeting. Or going into a meeting and everyone else had a pre-meeting and I'm kind of in the dark, right? And then as I moved up the ladder, it didn't get any easier because then while I had already proved myself, and here I am, I'm an executive and accomplished at that, I was always having to justify my decisions or my strategic plans as it came, when it came to what we wanted to do for a product, what I wanted to maybe to do for my team. Those I always had to justify it, and that was a huge challenge for me because what it did was it put me in a perpetual state of, oh, I got to validate myself again.
Yeah.
I got to validate myself again in this meeting. And that's hard to carry every day. going into, some top high profile meetings. I mean, I'm talking about CEO, C-suite in there all the time,
Right.
and always having to justify yourself. So it's like you're at a heightened state because you can get caught off guard with a question or anything else, but that your white men coworkers don't have to deal with. They present something and it's just accepted as law or accepted as truth. And yet here I am having to spend 15, 20 minutes justifying my course of action. And that got very frustrating. And so that was a huge challenge.
Did that change at all? Or did it get worse the higher that you went or the more advanced you went in your career? Or did it stay pretty much the same? And it was like, okay, here we go again.
It pretty much was, here we go again. I just think that the stakes were higher because I was higher, but it was the same. It was like, okay, I've seen this before. I know what I got to do. Like, or just I'm prepared for it. Right. So I'm prepared for it. So how I tried to navigate around it was to always answer the question before it's even asked. So, and that's what I trained my team to do. So whenever I would go in and, for example, say that it was a new feature that I was going to be deploying or proposing for one of my software applications, I'd say, here's the feature as it exists today. Here's the feature that we want to change it to. This is what our user base, when we tested it, this is how they responded to it. And here are projections based on what we think, this change will do positively for the company and for the application, right? And now people would think, oh, everyone has to do that. Yeah, typically. But the difference is Tom will go in and say, hey, I want to make this change. And it's like, okay, you can make that change. No questions on why. Did you test it? Who's going to use it? Did you talk to the business side on this, or this was a tech decision? But yet when I go in, I get all those questions and more. And that's the difference. And so I said, let me just kill it before it even starts by answering those questions before it's even asked.
So it's like it's a double-edged sword, because you've got to be, it sounds like to me that you've got to be more prepared than anybody else in the room, which is a double-edged sword because it's quite stressful and you've got to anticipate every single question, but it makes you that much more of a, may I say, a badass, like in the corporate setting.
Absolutely. And so that's what doing that actually helped my career, because then the more and more I did it, actually, it helped them not question me more, right? Because they're like, Martha's going to come prepared. She's already going to have the answer to it. And so that really helped me. The other thing that I'd say as Black women that I experience, especially at the executive level, is I'd go into meetings and they would address my person who reported to me, my teammate.
I think that so many women who are watching, professional women who are watching this, can just resonate going, girl.
They're probably like, girl.
I know.
Right. And so what I did to combat that is I would then because I was always early to a meeting and I would sit at the head. And they just like, okay, well, let's talk to Tom over here. And I'm like, excuse me, meetings with me, and I'm the decision maker. And so I started strategically coming to meetings late, like 5 minutes late or 3 minutes late. And they're like, oh, the meeting can start now. Martha's here. Then it kills all of the other things that I have to deal with on, oh, you're who we're meeting with. And again, it's an annoyance, but that's how I started to combat it. And then as vendors, as new executives started to get used to me, then I didn't have to do that. But it's more of trying to set the pace. Like, look, I'm here. I earned my spot here. Not just here to check a box. And let's go. Right.
Now, from a professional development standpoint, you mentioned that there were, some of your, white counterparts, they may have had like a mentor or something like that. Was it all trial by fire? I mean, I hope it wasn't the latter, but did you have a mentor, non-white or, or otherwise?
Absolutely. I've had several. I was fortunate when I started IBM that I had a male mentor. It was my manager,
Mhm.
old white Texan, and he took me under his wing and he showed me the way.
Mhm.
We are still good friends to this day. And as I matriculated and moved up and up the ladder, I had women, white women, I had black women, I had black men, and then I had my sister, my oldest sister, who she went to University of Miami and she entered corporate.
Cocaine.
Same, same,
Hey.
same. And I would call her because she'd gone before me, and I would be able to vent to her, talk to her, and she can give me perspective, right? And so all of those mentors did help me. But sometimes it's hard not having, and most of those, with the exception of Dale and Sharon, were outside of the workplace. Sometimes you need someone in the workplace because then they understand the context of what you're dealing with. They know the people, and so they can give you more targeted advice. But I would absolutely not be in the position that I'm in without the help of many, many mentors.
Martha, what keeps you focused when things get challenging? What's your North Star, if you will?
One is my boys. I have a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. My family. Um, I just think of them, and really, I think of my parents and then music. Those are the things. But I first think of my family. Of okay, Martha, you're incredibly blessed, right, to be able to do the things you have, to have a great husband, to have great kids, to have a great family. I still have my mom and dad, who's 82 and 83, that's with us. And a lot of people don't have that. And so gratitude is one, and then music.
Right.
Love music. Because again, I'm Caribbean, I'm Haitian. I'll put on some good compa music and just forget everything. But that really keeps me grounded. And thinking of my family, what it does is it reminds me what I'm doing it all for, and that all of this other stuff doesn't matter. I can get through it. Really, it's this is what I'm doing it for. So working hard and providing, being able to provide for them so I could spend more time with them, because that's the one thing we don't get back. We don't get back time.
Yeah.
And so it's important for me to just kind of sit back and be grateful for all
Yeah.
of the things, all of the opportunities, all of the challenges, because without that it wouldn't have led me to where I am now.
That's so important, and thank you for sharing that, because those of us who care about professional development and growth, we're always seeking thought leaders and stuff to glean from. And one of the things that's consistent among most of them is to be in a space of gratitude, as you are navigating, wherever your journey, takes you, but always be in that space of gratitude. Um, Thank you again for sharing that. Now, I want to switch the focus to your amazing company. Tell us, what is PRISMM, and why did you create it, and who's
Sure.
involved with you?
Sure. So PRISM is a digital vault built specifically to help ease the burden that people deal with, the administrative burden in particular that people deal with at end of life. So as caregivers, I'm the caregiver for the most part for my mom and dad, 81 and 80, 82 and 83. They're still in Miami, Florida. I'm in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama. I cannot run down every time they have an issue or want me to read a document for them. And so I really created it for them. And what really cemented it for me is being in the bank, being on the back end on the tech side. I see how, or I understand the processes that we go through when someone passes,
Mm.
right? Typically, the bank tries to contact the beneficiaries. If they can't, they'll put an ad out in a newspaper. No one reads a newspaper these days. It will sit in the account anywhere from 3 to 5 years, depending on what the state law is. And after that, it goes to the state. And so seeing that, I'm like, I work hard. My parents worked hard. I did not want this to happen to them. And so, how can I help using technology? So, I built a platform that allows you to connect all of your bank account information, think like a mint.com, to where you can aggregate all of that information into one place. Then you can categorize or catalog all of your heirlooms, or if you got that Jimi Hendrix guitar or that, special gun, you can put that manufacturer's like a serial number on there and put that in there. And then you can also put all of your documents in there. And the one thing that I'm really happy about that we did, because people love their privacy, is we allow the subscribers to select when their trusted person can see this information. Can they see it now, or do I want them to see it when I transition life? And what you're doing, even if you say, okay, I want you to see this when I transition life, is you've given them a gift, really, because people don't understand, or they underestimate, not necessarily they underestimate the impact of grief. And when someone that you love and care for transitions, sometimes you're scatterbrained. They might have told you what that password is or told you where that document is, but you can't put your hand on it because you're grief stricken. Or you're in New York and they're in California and you can't get to them fast enough, but you need to be able to handle a couple of things. You can't get to their house and go to that closet or that file cabinet. And so being in technology and seeing where we're going with that one, information is everywhere. So with information everywhere, how do I get to it? I said, we need to centralize it for this very specific thing, which is end of life, to make it easier for your loved ones to be able to handle those affairs.
I've often said on interviews and webinars that I've done that I view estate planning as a love letter to your family, because you thought enough of them to be intentional, to put pen to paper, whether it's yourself or via an attorney, and really lay everything out. And part of my passion, why I'm so fervent about what it is that I do, is that, just to be frank, in our community, communities of color, we need more education. There have been, we are just woefully behind compared to other communities in terms of how we're protecting the assets that we are accumulating. More of us are, higher education, more of us have, our own businesses, so we're amassing wealth. And by the way, a lot of those new business owners are women. So, Black women, and we are just like crushing it, when it comes to new businesses. But, our older generations, our, parents, my parents have since passed away, but, they didn't have a comprehensive estate plan. And I'm sure many people watching, most of them, their parents probably didn't. They may have had some life insurance over here, a little pocket of savings over there, but never a comprehensive strategy. So, as I'm sure you do with PRISMM, there's so much education that is required, because the two pillars of my practice are education and empowerment, but we must start at education, letting our folks know what is there, why it's so important for them to take advantage of tools that we now have at our disposal. So one of the many reasons I was excited to have you as a guest on the show, on the podcast, is because what you're doing is such a natural complement to what we're helping people to create. And this vault, this PRISMM, is just the next piece.
Yeah.
And, helping people have a convenient way safe and secure, and you're going to talk and address the security aspect shortly, but a secure, safe space that makes it convenient for those who are left behind once you transition to really carry on your affairs, resolve your affairs, and do everything that would honor you,
Yeah.
and not leaving, not having your last chapter be a hot mess.
Yeah.
Just chaos.
Just chaos.
Which is what we see so often. And the fact that you're a woman of color in this space, in this relatively new space, this digital vault, because I know that there are competitors. What makes PRISMM different than those that are out there?
Sure. So what makes PRISMM different is we do this one thing very well, which is making sure at end of life you have everything you need. A couple of our competitors, we have maybe about 3 or 4 competitors out there that's in this space. Mm-hmm. What they want to do is help you manage your life all the way from end to end. No one wants to manage their life online. I know that. I know even the new generation, the Gen Zers, are not going to manage their life online, right? And that could get very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was we were very intentional and very thoughtful and said, really, we want to make sure that we complement what you are doing. You're getting all of the documents ready. Like, we're not attorneys. I'm techie. You're doing all of that. You know the laws. You're guiding them on what should be in these documents. And then I'm saying we need to store it in a place and make sure that you share it with the right people so they know where it is. Because we are doing the right things. Most of the time, the women are the caregivers, and we're going to have to figure it out. So it's a little selfish of me too, because I'm like, I'm going to have to do this. So I need to have it organized and centralized, because I know that when something happens to my parents, I will be grief-stricken, but when I'm ready to deal with the paperwork, it's in one place. And so the difference is we say, we just want to make sure that you can transfer your wealth and your assets that you worked so hard for to the next generation, right? Store it in a place that everyone knows, well, that your trusted people know where it is. Mm-hmm. You can control the privacy of it. And so that's your final love letter, right? Because they know where it is. Because we've heard in the news with Aretha Franklin, like, you're finding wills here in
sofa cushions and where else,
Prince is estate. Like, the thing is, we try to do the right things. We get life insurance, we try to get a will, we do our estate planning, and then we file it away in our file cabinet. But if a hurricane comes, or a tornado comes, or a fire, it's gone. And it's easier to get an original from a copy than it is to go through and get all your new copies again. So for the convenience of being able to share it with people who are no longer in your same city, you might have family who've moved away. Mm-hmm. We are saying, make sure, use something to document and let somebody know where these documents are, or these important papers are, so that when something, or if something does happen to you, they know where to look, and it's not chaos, like you said.
Before I ask you the question on security, there's another question that just came to mind. How do you counsel, I guess, or coach those of us of a certain generation who are just a little bit leery about putting our information in, a space, one space? We've heard, and I don't want to mention them on the podcast, but there's certain major companies that have had security breaches lately, and that store passwords and so forth. And how do you address that? How do you provide that comfort level?
Sure. So one of the things that I say is, I'm really not after your information or your data, because honestly, anyone can get your data. We can get your information. And I'm not saying that to be like, people are out to get your information. But if someone really wants to be a bad actor and get the information they can, as evidenced by a lot of these security breaches that we see, I'm just after your consent. because what I tell the older generation is to use your cell phone, whether it's an Android or an iPhone. You have to consent to the terms before you can
Mm,
even use it. And who reads all those terms and conditions? Like,
mm,
really? Who reads it? The older guys are not reading that. They don't realize what they're already giving up.
mm.
And the apps that you have on your phone. And I said, do you have Facebook? Are you looking at your grandkids' pictures? Do you know how much information that they can get? Right? So it's not that I'm after information, because information is everywhere. If someone really wants to get it and be an bad actor, they can find it. I'm after your consent, because you're going to need to be able to provide consent to your loved ones to access certain things to be able to handle that information for you. And that's what PRISMM also does differently from other applications. We help facilitate giving that consent to your heirs or your trusted people so that they can handle it and that they can be the true beneficiaries and get the wealth that you've left them.
Now, at a from a 30,000-foot level, talk to us about the kind of security that
Sure.
PRISMM offers.
So because being at the bank, we always have to be security conscious. So
Mhm.
when we built the platform, we built it with that in mind. And when you're talking about inputting data or storing data, we encrypt the data in transit, meaning when you're putting it in and it's being sent over to the platform, all of that data is encrypted, and then we encrypt it in rest. So if it's data sitting in a database, it's all encrypted. So you really don't know what it is. And for layman's terms, it's gibberish, right? You just don't know what it says or what it is. But that's what it is. And we use bank level encryption because we know how important this information is, and that's how we approached our security architecture.
How now? I'm going to ask you a question of you as a business owner, and getting this company off the ground. How did you secure funding? I mean, access to capital. I spoke about that with a prior guest on the show. That's a pain point for a lot of new businesses, and particularly female owned businesses. How did you access funding? Did you use VC, angel investors, combination, or what? What was your magic
It,
potion?
it was out of my savings. And
Ah,
so
bootstrapping.
I
Yeah.
bootstrapped. And so we are now, after 2 years, at the phase where we will start fundraising and talking to VCs, and we've started some of those conversations. But this was so important to me that I bootstrapped it. And I left a very high profile position at one of the top banks in the United States to do it. And it was scary because you leave comfort and you leave stability, right? But I said, I'm young. If it doesn't work out, but I know it will, I can jump back into corporate America. But the thing is, as women, we typically bet on ourselves. And that's what I said. I said, I need to bet on myself because I really believe that this is a problem that it's not, I believe, I know that this is a problem that everyone is going to have. And I've always been of the mind, how can I create products to bring value to someone? And this idea just wouldn't leave me alone. I've had it since my parents were in the late 70s and started to really lean on us on things, and had tinkered with it for a while. And I said, because it keeps coming back to me, it's something that I have to do. It's like when God puts something on your heart, you just have to walk in it. And so
Yeah.
I'm walking in it. And I said, I'm going to have the faith that it's going to work out. And so I've bootstrapped for the past 2 years. And now we're at the point to where we're entering fundraising, and we'll enter our first round of fundraising.
And continuing on that point, you recently were blessed to have a new alliance with PRISMM, a very high profile celebrity. Saw what you're doing, believed in it so much that this celebrity said, listen, I want to help. So please share who that is, because
Sure.
it's a pretty big name
Sure.
celebrity, and tell us how that came about.
So we just partnered, and I say it was our Christmas gift to PRISMM with Malik Yoba.
Wow.
Well, Dr. Malik Yoba. And so he was visiting Birmingham back in, I believe, August, and was showcasing one of his new documentaries, which is about helping kids in New York learn about real estate development. And he was on a panel. And after the panel, I went up to him and I gave him my card and I said, "Hey, man, it's fantastic what you're doing. And PRISM does have a component to where we'll bring in real estate assets that we can integrate. We're working on integrating into the tax records to where if you have any real estate assets, whether it's mortgaged or owned outright, we can bring that into the platform." And I said, "So this is phenomenal what you're doing," and told him about it. And he said, and I said, "Okay, I'll talk to you later. Here's my card. Call, hopefully you'll email me." He was like, "Don't go anywhere. Stay right there." And I was like, "Okay." And so he came back. He talked to some other people that were in insurance, came back and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing. Um, Here's my phone number. Send me your pitch deck and let's talk." And about a couple of weeks later, he called me. He said, "Hey, I had a chance to look over the information. My mom passed to dementia. I was her caregiver.
Yeah.
And my
It
siblings
was
and I,
personal for him.
it was personal. And I didn't know that at the time, right? And so and you don't know when you're talking to people what their battles are.
Yeah.
And he said, if we had something like PRISM, it would have made all the difference for our my siblings and myself, because we had to deal with just trying to find and sift through the documents and get everything. And so you already have the emotional burden of having to watch, a loved one, a mom especially, deteriorate with dementia, and then trying to figure out where were the bank accounts, what are the passwords, where's the life insurance policy. So it was personal for him, and he said, "I would love to help you get the word out on this, because we're all going to have to deal with this, and what I think you're doing is important and brave, and so we'd love to join you." And so that partnership was formed, and he's been fantastic. He's just been a blessing to us.
That is amazing, and I couldn't wait to share that news with the audience. You must be on top of the world, because now this gives you, I would imagine, access to certain spaces that Malik Yoba has, other resources, and who knows, right?
Yeah, it does. We're actually doing, he will be in Birmingham on the 16th, and we're doing a launch, like an official launch, because we wanted it to center it around him. And again, it aligns with economic development as a Black woman creating a company in Birmingham that will eventually hire people, to work and run the company. So that's just going to be phenomenal, because what he brings with that, his celebrity status, and he is just getting to know Malik has just been phenomenal. Like
Mm.
multi-talented, his depth and breadth that other people, we just see him on TV that you just don't know about. Just what his ideas that he brings to the platform too, like what we can do to enhance it. It's just I'm so excited about this year and what we're going to do with PRISM and how far we're going to take it.
And if that isn't a sign that you're moving in the right direction, I don't
That's
know
right.
what is.
That's right, Elsa, because this is a hard topic.
Yeah.
Dealing with it and talking to people, it's an emotional topic.
Yeah.
It's a hard time. It's morbid. It's sad. Like you don't want to talk about it, but you have to. And so him being able to bring that storytelling piece to it too, the way he's able to explain it, and the way he's able to touch people and to move people through his storytelling, I'm just so excited about, and excited about where this journey continues to take me, even though we can do hard things, and this is a hard thing, and it just keeps me going. So
I'm excited about this. I love the fact that you're using Dr. Yoba to just kind of, and elevate, your platform, and reach so many more people. But I love the fact that you don't lose sight of the fact that this is very personal. You are so right about that. This is not transactional. This is not about documents, even though that's a part of the process and the logistics, the mechanics are part of the process.
Mhm.
But this is about just, it's about legacy. It's about changing the trajectory of your generational
Absolutely.
line. Okay. And that is what I seek to do. And you with Prism and what you're doing, you have the opportunity. You're giving people a tool that, that shows them it doesn't have to be this hard.
That's
We
right.
don't have to leave our families in chaos, in confusion. There are tools. We are developing these tools.
Yep.
So and yeah, and not losing sight of the fact also that it's very new for a lot of people, and just constantly educating, reinforcing that, and having, and I'll say it again, having folks that look like us at the forefront of this movement, to increase the use of estate planning in our communities, and the protection of those documents with the vault, a vault like Prism, is so important.
It
They
is.
need to see us out there, because for the longest time we've not been spoken to through
Nope.
marketing and other means. We're just kind of left on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And the fact is, and I don't know if you found this in your experiences, that a lot of my clients, and I'm blessed to have them come to me through referrals, but they feel comfortable working with me because I can relate to them on so many different levels, on a deeper level, cultural and otherwise. So I'm sure that you get that as well when people discover Prism and see you at the helm.
Yes. Yes, especially, I mean, I've been doing work in our community, with Black people, Black women, Black men, and they see me come in because, first of all, when you hear Martha Underwood, they feel like it's a little white old lady about to come walk in here, and so they see me and they feel relieved, and it's an automatic connection. And when I start talking to them about, you've worked so hard, you have a healthy retirement, you have a life insurance policy, you have an annuity, you have all of these things. Let me just help you store it securely, share it with your loved ones so that we can make sure we give it to the next generation. Because you're right, Elsa, it's about legacy. And we all care about legacy. Like, why do we work so hard?
Right.
We work hard. So one, we could play harder, but for us also to pass it on to our heirs, to our children, because we don't want them to have to deal with some of the challenges that maybe we had to deal with. And so that's why we want to make sure that people know where it is. Because like I said, we're trying to do the right things, but Prism aims to close the loop on the end, is to tie it with a nice bow. You've done all of the nice things, you've done all of the planning, you've done that. Now identify who your trusted people are, share it with them, lock it, check it twice a year, and you go right. And so that's really what our mission is, because we're about to enter the greatest wealth transfer in the
We're in
history.
it. We're in it.
We
We're
are,
in it. Yeah,
like,
we're in it. The
trillions of
great,
dollars.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that we all get, what's supposed to be passed down to us, because we worked too hard for it. And it's really time for us to step in and not be afraid of the conversation anymore. And like you said, make sure we give these love letters to our heirs and our family.
Martha, I'm just so excited with Prism. I'm going to put your contact information on, and if you could just share for those of us who are catching this on audio
Sure.
replay, how to reach you, where you are on social media, and how we can support you.
Sure. So you can find me at www.getprism.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Get Prism, and that's GetPrism. I'm also on LinkedIn at Get Prism. And I'm also at LinkedIn at Martha Underwood. Love for people to connect with me. And that's how you can catch me.
I love it. So if people actually want to get started with PRISMM, the best way is really to go to your website.
Yes, they can go to my website and they can click on the 7-day trial. And actually, Elsa, I have a code for them that
Wonderful. Please do.
they can use for 50% off, because PRISMM is $99 a year or $9 a month.
Mm-hmm.
But with this code, they can get it for 50% off, $49 a year. And that
Please.
code is Momentum Now.
Okay, everybody. Momentum Now is the code. And how long is this code valid for? Or it is?
It's valid for however long.
Well, amen to that, everybody. And thank you for being so gracious. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because at the
Martha,
end of the day, Elsa, it's about affordability too. So that's
yeah,
why I'm like, we want to make sure that that's not a barrier for them. So Momentum Now.
wonderful. Martha, it has been a joy not only to have met you, to talk to you on show prep, but now to finally just really have a conversation. Not only really view this as an interview, I just view it as like two girls having our our chai lattes, and we're just
I love
chilling
it.
and just learning so much about each other, but yet helping
Yes.
those in our spheres of influence. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being so gracious with your time, and educating us all on this new product that is out there. It's something that has the ability to protect. They've worked with me, and they're creating this estate plan, and now how to make it easier. And that's just the thing, because life is moving so quickly. And you're right, natural disasters happen, things happen, and people need a safe, secure space in which to store the documents that they've created. So for that, PRISMM is really on the cutting edge. And given your background in tech, I mean, that should give everyone, prospects, a certain level of like, okay, I can breathe now. This woman knows what she's doing. She's got the tech chops. So at least that's something that can give people another,
Yeah.
boost of confidence when looking at your company. Any final thoughts about PRISMM, about anything else that you want to share with the audience before we wrap up?
Sure. I'm like, PRISMM is like my love child, right,
Mm,
to the world, because I'm an empath. I'm very, sometimes people are like, Martha, how did you become so emotional? I feel for people when they're hurting and when they're suffering. And that's really what led me to this, because I don't want that to, fill the world. We need to be having fun, living life, and not being bogged down by some of the things, the administrative things that we've created, like the system is created, right? And so that's really why I created PRISMM. It's my love letter that I'll leave for people, just to be able to have some peace of mind outside of all of this, the noise that happens when someone passes. And we know it's hard, but we got to do it. And we're trying to make it as easy as possible. And I just wanted to thank you, Elsa. I'm like, Elsa, you're my girl now. I'm like, next, I'm like, we got to hang on, like
absolutely.
it's always a pleasure, and always so gratifying to meet other women in this space that's having the hard conversation and that's making impacts, like that's making an impact, right? So thank you for having me on. Thank you for doing the podcast. um, Thank you for your time and for all you do.
Thank you. It's been a joy. Everyone, Martha Underwood. Martha, have a wonderful afternoon. I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Everyone, she was a phenomenal guest. I knew she would be, and I couldn't wait for her to share everything about PRISMM and how it's such a wonderful complement to the estate planning that our firm does. And as I said, this show will be available on replay on Apple and Spotify and Google Podcasts as well. Be sure to download it, subscribe, and share it with those that you know. And if you're in the state of Maryland or the District of Columbia and need assistance with your estate planning, I invite you to book a free 15-minute call with our office. No obligation whatsoever, but at least it's going to put you, it's a step in the right direction. And feel free to check out all the videos that I have in our YouTube library at Elsa W. Smith Law. Again, I'm attorney Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney, thanking you for joining us for another episode of Wills, Women, and Wealth. Until